Dan here from the Meaning Movement. We live in a crazy moment, and I've got some ideas that I wanted to share with you about how to stay connected, to build healthy relationships, to build a network during these crazy times. These ideas apply both during a pandemic like we're in right now, but then also beyond a pandemic. I'm going to share a system that my wife and I use to build relationships and to stay connected. And I was trying to type all this up as a blog post and it just wasn't working. So I decided to turn on this YouTube channel and see what happens. If you like this video, subscribe to the channel. If you don't follow along at themeaningmovement.com, would love to have you jump in to our newsletter there. I share tons of great resources all around helping you do work that matters and pursue your passion, your meaning, your purpose, whatever words you like to use to think of that. So without further ado, let's go ahead and jump on in. All right, so let's jump into this little presentation I call Building and Maintaining Relationships, especially during a pandemic. So here's the core concept that I'm mulling over and working with. Relationships are strained due to COVID-19 limitations. Now, depending where we are in this situation at the time that you're watching this, those limitations could be anything from quarantine to lockdown to just limitations on how big social gatherings can be, etc. At the time of this recording, we're still on lockdown, but the government's talking about easing up on things, but who knows what the future holds. And so while hopefully it'll get better, I still think that what I'm going through here is relevant regardless of, regardless of whether we're in a pandemic or not, because we're always needing to think about how we're building relationships, maintaining relationships, building a network, supporting one another, caring for one another, all of those kinds of things. And I've found a system that works well that I wanted to talk through with you. Here is a way that we can visualize relationships. Relationships usually have some sort of hub that can be your work, it can be your neighborhood, it can be meetups, it can be clubs, churches, organizations, the gym, any place that you go where you connect with people. And in each of those hubs of people, of relationships, there'll be stronger ties and weaker ties, stronger relationships and weaker relationships. I'm representing those with these dots here. So you go to work and you have the people that you're close with at work, which are the bigger dots. And then you have the other coworkers that you might not interact with as much or just not connect with as deeply. Over time, hopefully, you're building more of those stronger relationships, but it just depends. Some people don't connect with their coworkers that much. And similarly, neighborhood, meetups, all of the places where you go and interact with people. The problem we have right now, as we're in this pandemic season, is that these hubs are not available to us. It looks a lot more like this. So the relationships still exist, but we're not entering into those circles where we're naturally interacting with these people. So over time, these relationships start to deteriorate and drop off because the person that you just have passing conversation with, you're not connecting with them now. And so you start to drift away, drift apart. And then hopefully what remains is these stronger relationships. But even in the midst of this pandemic, when you're not able to gather, you're not able to have people over for dinner, or you're not able to spend as much time together, those relationships can start disappearing or dissipating as well. There's a lot of downstream negative effects of this. The first and most obvious is loneliness, that we don't feel as connected to one another even outside of the pandemic situation. Loneliness is a problem in today's day and age. Our community is more fragmented and we have fewer of those hubs of relationship, especially as we get out of school and college and into work and in 30s and 40s and 50s and on, those hubs become harder and harder to access. So loneliness is a growing epidemic, even studies show, in Western culture, but I believe also around the world. That's accentuated by the pandemic, where this loneliness is compounded because we don't have even the few places that we would go to interact with others. Those are not even available to us anymore. Another downstream effect is just lack of support. And this could be support when there's major life event, but also just the small support of you need a little help with a project, carrying something into your house or whatever it might be, and you don't have those people to call on. You don't have those people to help. But also when there's a major life event and you need the kind of support that is you only call on during those life events, when babies are born, when people are going through tragedy and these heavy situations where often a community comes around each other. We don't have that same network available to us. And then finally, and I think this is super important, is missed opportunities. There's opportunities that are latent in relationships that when you're looking for a chance to collaborate, even if it's a new job or transition or who knows what else, opportunities come through the network, through the people you know. When you have ideas and those ideas bounce off someone else's ideas and that leads to an introduction to someone else, all of that happens through a network. And without a network in place, without relationships being upkept and built and growing, we miss a lot of opportunities. So that's the case for the situation that we're in. Now, I want to introduce this solution that I've been working with. My wife and I have been doing this in our lives for quite some time, even before COVID, before the pandemic and everything. It sounds weird at first, but bear with me because it's really great. It's a relationship management system. We call it an RMS. What is an RMS? What am I talking about? For anyone who's worked in marketing and sales, you might be more familiar with the concept, but it is a way to track relationships. It's a way to be reminded to reach out to people, and it's a tool to help you stay connected. There's a few core features to a relationship management system, and I'm going to talk you through and show you how you can create your own. This isn't a pitch. This is just a tool that I've been using that I wanted to share, and so you can create it with any way that works best for you. I'll present a few options that I've thought through, but these are the core features that it needs to have. So as you're thinking about how you can replicate this in your own life, here's some things to think about. You need to be able to track names and info. So the core feature, the baseline is you need to be able to put in all the people that you know into this system. Secondly, you need to be able to track dates of interaction. So that means that when you have a conversation, when you connect in some way, you put that into the system. And then finally, you need to be able to get reminders from the system at set intervals of time since your last interaction. So what that allows for you to do is to see what relationships have you been upkeeping more regularly and what relationships might need some attention. And it's just a tool to remind you to say, hey, you haven't spoken to whoever it might be. Go ahead and reach out. That's what this thing does. At bare minimum, it answers this question of who should you talk to today, or you to put it the way I have here. Here's who you should reach out to today. And if you're just reaching out to a couple people every day, that's all it takes to have a solid foundation of relationships. So here's some tools that I've found to be helpful. You could use a CRM. A CRM is customer relationship management system. If you've done sales or marketing, you might be familiar with something like this. Worked at a business that has a database of customers. It's similar to that. You could use one of those tools, but those tools are often expensive and kind of overkill for what we're talking about. You could use a spreadsheet, and I'll show you just really quickly in a moment here how to set up a spreadsheet that you could use for this purpose. And then finally, you could use Asana, which is a project management tool that's free, and I'll show you how I use Asana for this purpose. So I'm going to jump into each of those tools and walk you through just very quickly how you can use them for this purpose. And then I want to hear your thoughts on the blog post that I have this video embedded in, or in the comments on this video if this is helpful and what questions you have about it, because I think it's great. It's been super helpful for me and my family, and I hope it will be for you as well. So let's jump in. I'll start with the spreadsheet and then show you Asana next. So I'm going to show you how to set up a RMS in Google Sheets. I'll just go through this, and then after I do it, I will share this link with you so that you can use it on your own. So first thing you want to do is decide your categories. So I think the first thing that you'd want to have is the name. You could have context, how you know the person, mode of communication. I think sometimes it's helpful to have that documented, if it's phone or Facebook Messenger or Skype calls, however you'd like to communicate with the person. Different levels of intimacy might indicate you might have different ways of communicating. I like to say last mode of communication, because sometimes you text with someone a couple times, that might feel like a good enough connection point, but then other times you might want to jump on a phone call, etc. And then here we'd have last date of contact. So then those are the fields that jump to mind to me as being important. I'm just going to populate this with, I just search for fake names. And here's a list of a bunch of fake names. So I'm going to just pull a bunch of these in here. So the first thing that you would do after you have those basic categories set up, and I froze this top one so you'll be able to sort by date, you'd go ahead and put in all of the names of the people that come to mind. You want to just brainstorm everyone who is a connection of some sort that you'd want to stay in contact with, that you'd want to be having some relationship upkeep, doing some relational upkeep with. I find that this list fluctuates for me from time to time. There's some times where I want to be more connected to certain people than others. And then what you go through is you go through and add in the context if you want. You don't even have to do this, but I find it's helpful to think through, old school friends, friends from my professional circles, etc. So you could have a category like work, school, maybe long distance, someone who's not in your area, distance, whatever categories or contexts work for you, and go ahead and populate that all the way out. So I'm just going to go ahead and just duplicate this all the way down, because we're just making dummy data here. So let's go ahead and do that. Last communication, I'm going to say phone call. I'm going to have text message, email, Skype call, Zoom call. And of course, you'd want this to be, more real than what I'm doing here, but I'm just doing this for demonstration purposes. And then here you'd put the last date of contact. So I'm going to have my last date. Let's say that this person was January 1st, 2020, and this person was January 20th, 2020, and this person, that's not how you do that. And then let's say this one was May 5th, 2020, April 10th, and onwards. So you're going to just put that date, and then what this category then becomes is where you're going to be doing your interactions and updating. Be updating these two categories as you go. So I'm just going to go ahead and duplicate this material all the way down, just so you can see it here. So then when you get into your list, there's a couple different things that you can do. When you open your RMS, you can sort this by context. So if you want to reach out to spend some time nurturing relationships in a specific context, you can sort by context, or you could sort by communications medium. If you want to just send a few texts all at once, you could sort this and then say, okay, let's go to my text messages and see who do I usually communicate via text. But the most useful, in my opinion, would be this one, which you can sort by date and then see who has it been longest since I have contacted. And you can see a bunch of these people here haven't contacted them since January. So then what you would do is you would reach out to them in whatever method makes the most sense for you. Email, phone call, whatever, however you'd like to stay connected to this person or feel like connecting to them right now. And then you would update it at the time of me, the time that I'm filming this, it's May 13th. So I'm going to update this to May 13th. And let's say that I go ahead and reach out to a bunch of these people on May 13th, and then just like that. And then if I sort again, you can see that those people now have moved to the bottom of the sort. So this is a way that you can stay connected to a bunch of people. I think some of the downfalls, the drawbacks of this is there are people that you'll want to be in contact with more frequently than others. And there are, so let's say that Zach Lee here is one of your closest friends. And if you reach out to him today and then you come back in here to start sorting again, and he's way down at the bottom of the list. And so it doesn't really allow for a lot of frequency adjustments. But what you could, there are some ways that you could work around that. You could find a, maybe add another column of like next contact could be a way around that. So you could put a date here. So let's say that I like to speak to Zach once a week. So I'm going to say 5/20/20 will be my next contact. So that way you're not just thinking about the last time you contacted them, but you're also giving yourself a date to go off of as far as your next contact. So that way you have some people that you have, different cycles with, some people you want to be speaking with, connecting with weekly, others once a month is fine, others maybe even every couple of months for long distance friends or people that you're not as close to but want to maintain some relationship with. Their different cycles could make sense. And then you would just sort by your next contact date. So that is how I would do a RMS, create an RMS in a spreadsheet. The drawback here is that you have to open the spreadsheet. And of course, the drawback of all of these things that I'm going to be showing you is that you have to use them in order for them to work. With what I'll show you next in Asana, you'll see that you can do it a little bit more easily without having, you can use email reminders and things like that. You could probably do that with a spreadsheet if you're super advanced and set up reminders. That's beyond my skill set as far as spreadsheets are concerned. I'll share the link for this in the description on this video and in the blog post. So you'll be able to open this and see probably just as it is right here. Then what you're going to want to do if you want to use it, you can just go here to File and then make a copy, and then that would add it to your own Google Drive. Or if you don't have Drive, you could download it as an Excel file or CSV to import it to some other spreadsheet tool. Another way, this is my preferred way to run an RMS. This is using a tool called Asana. Asana is a project management tool. You can get it at asana.com. It's a freemium model app, which means that there are paid features and there are free features that are available to everyone. I run a handful of businesses all on Asana, use the free version. We use the free version for almost everything. Only more advanced project management stuff is required, with the higher version. So the first thing you want to do is just go to Asana and sign up. I'm not going to go through that whole process. Instead, let's just jump right in to what it looks like once you're signed up. First, you're going to create a workspace. So I'm just going to go ahead and do that. And I'm going to build this whole project out from the top. It might take a moment to create my workspace. It's going to be totally blank. And here we go. So this is what it looks like. I created this space. It's organized by teams. So if I wanted other people, with my RMS that my wife and I use, she's a collaborator in here, so I can invite people to it, etc. I'm not going to get into all of that. I want to keep this as simple as possible. I'm going to create a new project, and we're just going to call this RMS. Create that project. Next, I'm going to look up fake names. I don't have my list of random names. I think this is the one from yesterday. Okay, let's just do 20. Perfect. Let's just go ahead and copy this. Okay, so the first thing you're going to do once you are in here is brain dump all of your relationships, just like we went through it with the spreadsheet, all the people that you want to stay in contact with. I'm just going to paste them in here. The way that Asana works is each of these shows up as a task. So since I'm the only one working in this project, I'm going to select all of these and assign them to myself. That'll be the first thing that I do. So assign them to me. Next thing I'm going to do is go into one of these just by clicking on it, and I could add information. I can add a context if I want to track context. I could add a method of communication if I want to track that, or any notes about this person. There are a couple ways you can do that. You can do that through descriptions, but you can also, by hitting Apple T, you could create a tag, or it's tab T rather. So I could make a work tag, and then give that tag a color. And then back in this other view, I could add tags as part of that view. So then I could start sorting my contacts by tags. So very similar to what we were doing over in the spreadsheet, where we have all of these different things. So you can replicate something very, very similar here. So that's the first thing that I'll do. The next thing I wanted to say, when is the next time I want to contact this person? So let's say that I want to contact this person in 2 weeks, should be my next point of contact. And then this is what's really important. Then I can set it to repeat a certain number of days after completion. So most of the people that I'm using the RMS for, I just put at 30 days. Some people who are closer friends, I put at less than that, but often those are people that I'm more organically staying in contact with anyways. So I just set that as 30 days after completion. And you want to go through and you would want to edit all of these and put them all as with all of that information. I'm going to go ahead and just do this all in bulk. You can do that just by hitting Shift and selecting all of these. And I'm going to make them all due at the end of the month and have them be repeat 30 days after completion, and hit done. So what that means then is, so let's say that Martina Kale, this person, I have a conversation with her tomorrow. She calls me. And so I'm going to come in here and I'm just going to say, mark as complete. I don't need to wait until the due date for that. I'm just going to go ahead and mark it as complete. Now you can see it just popped back up with the due date of June 13th. So it will automatically recycle as long as you have the task, the person, set to repeat. They'll come back, and then you'll know to contact them again. The challenge is the people who you might want to have a further out, contact point with. Maybe instead of every 30 days, you might want to have it 90 days or 120 days, whatever, maybe old college friends that you don't keep up with as closely. What I find is I always keep it to cycle back in 30 days. That way no one disappears. But let's say that Eldora here, I connect with her tomorrow or today. And so then instead of just checking it off, because I know that I don't need to connect with her, for a while, what I'll do then is just manually say, let's say that my next connection point will be maybe about end of July, and just manually move that forward. I do it manually, again, rather than checking it off, because if I check it off, it'll come back in 30 days. So this allows you to put it a little bit further out. So then what's really cool about Asana is you can set up email updates, so you can that will let you know when things are coming due. But then also, and I can't model this for you on this demo, but you have this inbox feature where anything that is due today will pop up into this box. It won't update if I manually change the date. So if I change it to today, which is the 14th, it won't manually update here. But if I had this set as the 14th yesterday, and then when the clock turns over on the world clock to today, it would show up here as being due today in my inbox. So then it's as simple as just logging into Asana, taking a look at what's due, and then working through those items and reaching out to those people and keeping up contact that way. So that is the basis. There's lots more that you can go into, all the things you can do with Asana, but that's how I like to use it for an RMS. I hope that's helpful. That's it. And boom, that's a wrap. Hopefully Either of those two methods will work for you as far as creating a system to stay in contact. The invitation here is to get more intentional. And I find that, in business as in life, the things that you track, the things that you pay attention to, the things that you write down are the things that get improved. That's where you see improvement. And by bringing more intentionality to your relationships, by writing down some of these things, though it might feel a little bit systematic or even robotic at first, can give a lot of depth to your network, to your relationship, and give you the ability to stay connected, to stay plugged in. If this video was helpful for you in any way, I would love for you to subscribe below, wherever that subscribe button is. If it was helpful and you feel like sharing it, would love for you to share this with anyone who you think could find this helpful. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you on the blog or on the podcast or back on this channel sometime soon. Thanks. With Asana.